Acts 8. The Ethiopian eunuch was just that, a eunuch. He'd been castrated so that he would be faithful to the ruler of Ethiopia. He was wealthy, but wealth doesn't bring happiness, as we all know, I think. He had no family, and he would have been a lonely man. So he turned to spiritual things and became interested in the Jewish religion. He was a seeker of the one true God of Israel. So he came to Jerusalem to the temple, and he'd have found a sign that said, "No Gentiles beyond this point." So he used his wealth to obtain a copy of the scroll of Isaiah, and as he was returning home in his chariot, I guess he would have felt rejected by God's people because he was a Gentile. He would have felt so alone as he had no children or family life. He was a eunuch. But then he came across some words in Isaiah which were prophetic of Jesus, and God miraculously sent Philip to explain those words to him. So let's remind ourselves of Acts 8 from 32 to 35. Now, the passage of the scripture which he was reading was this: "He was led as a sheep to the slaughter, and as a lamb before his shearer is dumb, so he did not open his mouth. In his humiliation, justice was denied him. Who can declare his generation?" That is, he's got no children. "For his life is taken away from the earth." And the eunuch said to Philip, "I beg you, of whom does the prophet speak, of himself or of somebody else?" And Philip opened his mouth, and beginning at that scripture, preached Jesus to him. Well, what attracted the eunuch to Jesus was that he saw that Jesus was like himself. He read that Jesus was also denied justice, just as he had been by the Jews also in Jerusalem. The very same Jews who had done injustice to Jesus had done it to him. He saw that Jesus said nothing in response. He was dumb, silent. Just as perhaps the Ethiopian eunuch had to keep his thoughts to himself. Jesus had also been humiliated, and Jesus also died without children. There was nobody to declare his generation, that is, to talk about his family and his descendants. Jesus died childless. Well, Jesus had our nature. He was our representative. And this is what attracts us to him. He had all our experiences. And man is not alone because of this. No experience is ultimately unique. No road we are on is ultimately untraveled by someone else, because Jesus went through it all, in essence. And this attracts us to him because he can empathize, not just sympathize. He knows how we feel, and he bids us seal that identification with him by being baptized. And if you haven't been baptized, well, contact me and we'll try and arrange it. And we also show that identification by living in him and with him, and that is just what the eunuch did.